Somalia is a country in the Horn of Africa that has been plagued by civil war, famine, piracy, terrorism, and political instability for decades. It is often considered a failed state with no effective central government or institutions. It has one of the lowest human development indicators in the world, with high levels of poverty, illiteracy, malnutrition, and mortality. So how does Somalia manage to survive and function in such a hostile environment? What are the main drivers and constraints of its economic activity? And what are the prospects and risks for its development and stability? Let's find out. To understand Somalia's economy, we need to first understand its history and politics. The country was colonized by European powers in the 19th and 20th centuries and became independent in 1960. But it soon faced coups and conflicts that destroyed its democracy and development. A socialist dictatorship led by Siad Barre ruled from 1969 to 1991. But it was unpopular and fought wars with its neighbors. Barre was toppled by rebels who then fought among themselves, plunging the country into a civil war that still rages on. The government collapsed, and Somalia split into regions and factions that competed for power and resources. One of these factions was the Islamic Courts Union, ICU, which imposed Sharia law and challenged the internationally backed Transitional Federal Government, TFG, in the mid-2000s. The ICU was defeated by Ethiopia and the US, but it gave birth to Al-Shabaab, a radical Islamist group that waged a guerrilla war against them and other foreign forces. Al-Shabaab was driven out of the capital Mogadishu in 2011, but it still operates in rural areas and attacks urban targets. It also has ties with other terrorist groups like Al-Qaeda and ISIS. In 2012, Somalia adopted a provisional constitution that created a federal system of governance with 5 autonomous regions: Somaliland, Puntland, Galmudug, Jubaland, and Hirshabelle. Each region has its own administration and parliament, but also shares some powers with the federal government of Somalia, FGS, which is based in Mogadishu. However, the constitution has not been fully implemented yet. The FGS consists of a president elected by parliamentarians from all regions, a prime minister appointed by the president, and a bicameral legislature composed of an upper house representing the regions and a lower house representing the clans. The FGS is recognized by most countries as the legitimate authority of Somalia, but faces many challenges in asserting its control over the whole country. The political crisis in Somalia has worsened in recent months as the country has failed to hold timely and credible elections that were due in February 2021. The president, Mohamed Abdullahi Mohamed, also known as Farmajo, tried to extend his term by 2 years without the consent of the parliament and the opposition, sparking protests and clashes in the capital, Mogadishu. The international community and regional actors have been trying to mediate between the conflicting parties and urge them to resume dialogue and reach a consensus on how to conduct the elections. However, the talks have been stalled by mistrust and disagreements over the electoral model, the composition of the Electoral Commission, and the security arrangements. The political deadlock has also created a security vacuum that has been exploited by Al-Shabaab, which has increased its attacks on government and civilian targets, as well as on foreign forces supporting the Somali government, such as the African Union Mission in Somalia, AMISOM, and the US military. Al-Shabaab has also been involved in piracy off the coast of Somalia, which has been a major problem for international shipping and trade for years. Another challenge is dealing with the humanitarian crisis that affects millions of Somalis. According to the UN, Somalia is one of the most vulnerable countries in the world to climate change, natural disasters, and conflict. It faces recurrent droughts and floods that destroy crops and livestock, as well as locust invasions that threaten food security. It also suffers from outbreaks of cholera, measles, and COVID-19, exacerbated by poor health infrastructure and limited access to water and sanitation. As a result, Somalia has one of the highest rates of malnutrition, mortality, and displacement in the world. According to the UN, more than 8.25 million Somalis will need humanitarian assistance and protection in 2023, up from 5.9 million in 2021. This is due to the ongoing conflict, violence, and increasingly frequent droughts that have affected the country. More than 2.8 million Somalis are internally displaced as of September 2021, and more than 1 million are refugees in neighboring countries as of August 2021. The humanitarian response is hampered by insecurity, funding gaps, and access constraints. Water is essential for human survival, health, and development. However, Somalia faces a chronic shortage of water due to recurrent droughts, poor infrastructure, and weak governance. Only 52% of the population in Somalia has access to a basic water supply. Many people have to fetch water from far and from unsafe open wells, which exposes them to waterborne diseases and violence. Water scarcity also affects agriculture and livestock, which are the primary sources of livelihood for many Somalis. According to the United Nations, the worsening drought affects 2.1 million people in Somalia, who face severe food and water insecurity. Water scarcity also contributes to social and political conflicts as different groups compete for scarce resources. Piracy off the coast of Somalia is a complex phenomenon that has multiple causes and effects. Some of the root causes of piracy are poverty, unemployment, lack of education, environmental degradation, illegal fishing, and weak governance. Some of the pirates are former fishermen who lost their livelihoods due to foreign vessels overfishing and dumping toxic waste in Somali waters. Some are unemployed youth who join criminal gangs to make money. Some are affiliated with Al-Shabaab or other warlords who use piracy as a source of funding for their activities. Piracy off the coast of Somalia has had negative impacts on both Somalia and the international community. For Somalia, piracy has undermined its sovereignty, security, and development. It has also damaged its reputation and image around the world. For the international community, piracy has disrupted maritime trade and commerce, endangered human lives and property, increased insurance costs and security expenses, and threatened regional stability. The international community has responded to piracy off the coast of Somalia with various measures such as naval patrols, legal prosecutions, capacity building, and development assistance. These measures have helped to reduce the number of pirate attacks and hijackings in recent years, but they have not eliminated the threat completely. Piracy off the coast of Somalia can only be effectively addressed by tackling its root causes and providing sustainable solutions for Somalia's political, economic, and social challenges. Another factor that makes Somalia's economy dangerous is its dependence on remittances and foreign aid. Remittances are money transfers from Somalis living abroad to their relatives and friends in Somalia. Remittances are estimated to be around $1.4 billion per year, which is equivalent to 28.5% of Somalia's GDP. Remittances are a vital source of income, consumption, savings, investment, and social protection for millions of Somalis. Remittances also support the balance of payments, the exchange rate, and the foreign reserves of Somalia. Foreign aid is financial or technical assistance from donor countries and international organizations to Somalia. Foreign aid is estimated to be around $1.6 billion per year, which is equivalent to 32.5% of Somalia's GDP. Foreign aid is a crucial source of funding for humanitarian relief, development projects, governance support, security assistance, and debt relief for Somalia. Foreign aid also influences the political economy, the institutional capacity, and the policy agenda of Somalia. However, foreign aid also depends on donor priorities, interests, conditions, and evaluations. Foreign aid is also subject to volatility, fragmentation, duplication, misalignment, leakage, and corruption in both the donor and recipient countries. Another crucial factor that makes Somalia's economy dangerous is corruption. Corruption is a widespread problem in Somalia that affects all levels of government, public institutions, the private sector, and civil society. Corruption involves bribery, extortion, nepotism, embezzlement, fraud, and money laundering. Corruption undermines the rule of law, democracy, accountability, transparency, and trust in Somalia. Corruption reduces the effectiveness and efficiency of public services, policies, and programs. Corruption distorts the allocation and distribution of resources, benefits, and costs. Corruption erodes the tax base, increases the fiscal deficit, and inflates the public debt. So, why does Somalia have the most dangerous economy in the world? The answer is that Somalia's economy is exposed to multiple and interrelated factors that threaten its stability, sustainability, and resilience. These factors include insecurity, drought, floods, food shortages, lack of economic opportunities, corruption, political instability, and dependence on remittances and foreign aid. These factors affect the production, consumption, distribution, and accumulation of goods and services in Somalia. These factors also affect the welfare, well-being, and dignity of Somalis. Somalia needs to address these challenges by maintaining macroeconomic stability, strengthening public revenue and fiscal management, investing in human capital development, diversifying the economy, creating more jobs, and building resilience to climate change and other shocks. However, this requires overcoming the complex political, security, and social obstacles that Somalia faces. Somalia's economy is not hopeless, but it is certainly dangerous. What more can be done to improve Somalia's economic situation? What do you think about them? Let us know in the comments below.